Get my 6. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Homesteading Off the Grid, the most popular homesteading channel on the entire internet that has absolutely nothing to do with homesteading. You just heard the distant howl of the beast. We're only days away from October. We're here at the edge of forest and field. The veil is getting thin. And I, dear viewers, am going to read you a couple of stories from the newly released True Hauntings Volume 4. Yeah, remember that movie Scanners? Scream, blow your head up. So it's here. I got my copy. Do you have yours? They're available in print and or Kindle on Amazon, and I'm whispering because you heard the howl. I've heard 2 distinct tree knocks. I've been up here for maybe 8 minutes getting set up, the tripod and the chair, and getting the proper angle so you can see into the forest. Get my 6, of course, is military terminology for watch behind me. You never know who or what you may or may not see in the backdrops of these videos. So, just another teaser. Remember, in October, we're going to be up here every night reading scary stories from the True Haunting volumes, from the October Nights volumes 1 and 2, and any stories that you guys want shared on the internet here on the channel. Send them to me. Email them to me at crazylake@mail.com. So, with that said, let's put on the old man glasses. Wow, I can really see better back there now. Keep getting my 6. All right, so I'm going to read you, this has dozens and dozens of stories, 40,000 words, full-length novel length collection of short stories submitted by people from all over the world. Lover's Lane. Here's a story called Lover's Lane. Give a listen and get my 6. Mr. Lake. First of all, I want to thank you for giving people like me who have a story to tell a place to tell it. When unexplainable things happen in life, they can bear a weight on your chest, the likes of which can only be relieved by telling of the events. You have my permission to tell this story. It's why I'm passing it along to you. I just ask that you keep me anonymous. I don't care so much about what people think about me, but there are some local families involved with this story, and I don't want to embarrass any of them. My husband and I both served for 20 years in the Navy. It's where we met. We were married for about 8 years before we retired, and we had the common dream of retiring, heading to Appalachia and buying some cheap acreage, and pretty much saying the hell with society. Neither of us are from Appalachia. I'm from just outside of Chicago, and my husband is from Baltimore, so he was at least close, same coast. But we traveled through the area, and we couldn't help but notice the cheap real estate prices. Anyway, we retired, found our perfect little patch of heaven in eastern Kentucky, not far from West by God, Virginia, bought it, and began calling it home. And that's when things took a turn for the weird. Our driveway is about half a mile long from the main road. It stops at our house, but as we'd find out in time, it didn't used to. I don't want to jump ahead in the story, so I'll explain later, in the event you don't figure it out as my story unfolds. So, it hadn't even been a week since we'd moved into our house before we saw the first set of headlights out in the woods behind our house. Yes, a set of headlights. I clearly remember seeing the lights shining through our bedroom window and hitting the wall. I sat up and nudged my husband awake. He sat up as well, saw the lights, and just as I did, they vanished. He saw the lights just as I had, and then they vanished. We looked out the window and saw no one. As crazy as it might have been to do, we went out in the backyard and listened and watched and heard and saw no one. We went back into the house and back to sleep, though I'll admit sleep took a while for us to find. Keep watching. The following day, my husband and I walked out into the woods behind our house. It wasn't too hard because you see our driveway used to extend out another 100 yards or so. Here, what was in an old country road ended, and there was a bit of a wide spot. It was all grown up, with trees big enough to where you couldn't wrap your hands around them, so it had been some time since it had been a passable road, and we certainly didn't see any tire tracks. This would happen about every other month, lights shining through our window. Sometimes we would hear music playing, and it was always from the 50s era. Sometimes we would hear a car horn honking, though no car was ever there, and at other times we could hear what sounded like a young man and a young woman giggling. Okay, so here's the scoop. We were in that house for nearly 3 years before we finally got the backstory from one of our neighbors, someone whose family had lived in the area for generations. As it turns out, up until about half a century ago, the wide spot at the end of what used to be the end of our driveway was the local lover's lane. Young people would go parking there and make out. It all ended when a jealous husband caught his young wife with her lover there and shot and killed both of them. According to the story, the killer left the state and he was never found and brought to justice. Kevin, we were told that we were not the only people to see and experience the things we saw and experienced, and that at times, when the property was on the market, it would sit on the market for years, as it had before we'd bought it, because all the locals knew it was haunted. We remain in our house and on our land. We love it here and we have no intentions of leaving, and we continue to experience these phenomena on occasion. Again, please share my story in any way you'd like. Just please keep me anonymous. Wow. Could you imagine in a wood like this, you just see headlights turn on all of a sudden? Another distant howl. Things are getting creepy, and it's not even October yet, but we're getting close. So, for any of you who know anything about trees, you can tell most of the trees behind me are yellow tulip poplar, a couple pines, some cedars, and they're about 20 to 25 years old at the most, except for this big red oak right here. That's about 200 years old, 150. But I've walked through these woods, and there's actually remnants of an old road, remnants of an old stone wall, and the frame and back portion of a truck bed that is probably from the 1920s. So I'm just thinking of this after having read this story because, folks, there's a lot of places that we think that maybe it's wooded. We think it's always been wooded, or maybe it's field or meadow. It's always been field or meadow. Tell you, there is so much history. There were so many lives lived before our own in places you wouldn't expect. So that's why at any given time, you can experience creepy things pretty much anywhere, like in this story. It could happen here. That's why you've got to get my 6 as I tell these tales. All right. We got time for one more, right? We haven't been here too long. Let's do one more, then I will bid you adieu. All right, I'm just going to go with the next one in the story. I wanted to find one somebody had submitted where they let us use their name. I love these anonymous stories, and I know a lot of people don't want it getting out that, you know, they've had these experiences, but here we go. I forgot. They want to be anonymous now too. Okay, let's just go with the next one. It's called The Shadow That Smelled of Death. The Shadow That Smelled of Death. Continue to get my 6. Submitted anonymously. I'd been feeling like I was being followed for several nights in a row, but no matter where I looked, I could never see anything. So I'd just shuffle in as fast as I could and look behind me as I went. The feeling of being watched instead of going away intensified. It honestly felt like something was right behind me about to grab me. We had taken out the trash earlier that last day. I was about to settle down when our pets started causing a row. I'm assuming this anonymous person lives in England. We would say our pets started losing their shit here in the U.S. They were obviously fighting with something that had frightened them, darting back and forth and making all kinds of noise, so I made up my mind to see what was the matter. I went outside and started to walk around the house to scan for anything out of the ordinary. I couldn't find anything at first, but noticed a foul odor when I walked past the trash bins, far worse than it had been only a few hours ago when we took it out. That's when I noticed it. That feeling of being pursued was back and worse than it had been before. It was scary before, but this was worse, way, way worse. I felt an overpowering sense of dark, heavy, ominous dread and primal fear, like most people never feel in their entire lives unless they are in a survival situation and know they are about to die. I turned around, wildly, shifting my gaze this way and that, looking high and low, scanning everywhere, trying to desperately see from which direction my assailant might come. As I walked back and forth, looking around, the smell grew along with the sense of dread. Foul, foul. I mean, foul doesn't even really cover it. It was a stink like nothing you've ever encountered. It was like really rank BO, along with the most rancid ass stink possible, mixed with piss, skunk stink, rotten, festering trash smell, and raw sewage. Even that doesn't do it justice. Wow, it must have really stunk. The sense of dread and fear was unreal as well. I was looking where my pets were darting and looked under my porch and I saw something big, huge. It was hard to tell what it was, and it was so black. And before anyone says, well, yeah, it was night, we had a security light on and it wasn't that dark. But this was absolutely black. It was an inky, formless black that blotted out everything around it, which is how I saw it. I felt something shift its weight underneath the porch, and it dawned on me. I couldn't see the beams of the porch or the wall of the house. It was against or on the ground. It was like a great big round shape was blotting out the background around it. I felt rather than saw that it noticed me, for I never really saw a head or a face, and I didn't want to. It took a few moments that felt like hours, but as soon as I could get my legs to move, I ran and booked it back inside the house as quickly as possible and didn't come back until dawn. It's gone, by the way. I don't know where it went, nor do I care. I'm just glad it's gone. Wow. What a creepy story. Well, there's a couple of really good creepers for you. Just a couple out of dozens that are in True Hauntings Volume 4, hot off the presses. Available on Amazon in print or Kindle, the link to which is in the description box below. Man, it's getting creepy up here. This veil is thinning. I bet you all kinds of you folks are seeing all kinds of stuff back here behind me tonight. Make sure to timestamp it so the other folks have a chance to rewind and go back and see it for themselves. And with all that said, thanks for being here at the most popular homesteading channel on the internet that has absolutely nothing at all whatsoever in the least bit minor to do with homesteading. See you for more next time.